Welcome in, everybody. This is Eternal and Torment with a DMR1 on the killer. One of the most known hillbillies, but that also applies to Bubazavra on Eternal. Let's take a look onto Eternal's survivor roster. Zake, Cast, Dan, and Bubazavra. And just for everyone watching, Eternal is going to receive an issue from us because someone is not allowed in our games, but that's going to be dealt with in the background. We do see the first chase onto the survivor here on the shack, and Starker is going to be the first one that is going to be in the chase right here. Let's see if this curve is going to find the target. That's not going to be the case, so a good start for Team Eternal.
Yeah, and you know, something I was just thinking about loading in here, Dyer, I think even knowing that Bubazavra has that strong play, I think one of the things our survivors might have also been thinking was as far as when they load in on the opposite side, he benched a couple 1v1ers on the side. Maybe they can catch a good, maybe, I don't know, Zaka out of place out by a pallet. If you can get yourself just one good early down from DMR here, they should be very comfortable looping their survivors over on the other side. Very early, very good down here for DMR. Not only that, but it is going to be kind of in a corner of the map where you should be able to patrol a couple of gens here as well. Most importantly, this generator that is here at Pride Rock looks like it actually got regressed there, I would imagine, from that pain resonance, which is also in play here. So with that early down, DMR more than likely going to be very comfortable with just securing a second stage here.
Yeah, the second stage might come out here, especially when you have so much time, right? You have the generator here that is regressing, so you're also sitting on all the advantages you have, but there is someone rotating in. Very nice work, and Zaka is going to take the borrowed time hit here, is rotating over towards the midsection. And we do see what's usually coming out with a weaker killer especially. That's going to be the tunnel out onto this survivor, trying to make sure to eliminate them as quick as possible here. So we are going to move back towards the section here in the main building. I do believe this is going to, breaking this one and almost catching Zaka here, but he should reach this next pallet, but he does read it a little bit. Next curve coming out. What a wonderful one onto Zaka here.
Yeah, absolutely got him. Beautiful curve, but there's a flashlight save coming in here. Another flashlight save. Second one that we've seen here for the winner circuit. That's huge. Buys big distance. Allows for our Nancy here to move to the backside of our main building. The only problem, though, now with this door being broken, you don't really have much to your advantage. You can try and use the window, but the door being right there, really good job to at least allow the full rotation over by DMR, but now all the way around this building, I think you're pretty well stuck. But a second gens pop, you're allowing plenty of time for your other survivors to work on these gens. So wing and a miss here from DMR, going to be able to make it to this pallet. Huge juice coming out here from Zaka.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. Zaka the monster, how the community calls him. And Q, I know exactly why he has this name. When I'm looking onto this is such a head as well. Now they are absolutely juicing here on the gas heaven, making this pallet here as well. What a performance by Eternal. And this is the insane thing, right? Because we have the first hook stage so quickly into the trial. It looked almost bad for Team Eternal, and still they are up and running here. It might be the second hook stage soon, but they still have resources to work with. There's still the pallet here, and that's going to be another one by Dan. You need to be careful because of the add-on there, the low pro chains, but our survivor is just holding W to the next one. This might be endgame with just one stage queue.
Yeah, absolutely vicious here. You thought you were going to get that second hook stage, and then you got the save, then the absolute juice here. You still have this pallet still in play here as well, and if you can avoid the chainsaw just like that, you might buy enough time for that fifth and final gen to get complete. You can see DMR trying to close this gap here, trying to see if they can make something happen, knowing that the low pro chains are in play. Gonna play a little bit more greedy. The fifth gen pops. Now at this point, you can have your three other survivors simply going towards the exit gate, and you still have a potential maybe even for hatch play here, Dyer.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. This might be a 4-man escape happening from Team Eternal here. One stage so far. The Bloodlust is coming out. Dan now staying on the floor here. The Bloodlust in the end a little bit too strong. They're just going to take the confident escapes here. So that was a very, very quick game on the Gas Heaven. Quicker than a lot of trials we have seen before in the Winter Circuit. The good thing is you have a fresh here, so that's going to be 10 points towards our killer. Eternal is going to take, I believe, 18. Yeah, 18 is going to be the score there. So quick performance by Eternal, 18-10, setting a sign, absolutely smashing it, and we'll find out if Torment can smash it as well in the upcoming trial.
All right, let's get ready for another trip here back into the fog. We saw a pretty strong performance from Eternal Survivor. We're going to be seeing Bubbazover out here for Eternal on the Hillbilly against Zynox, Silhe, Coda, and Ivan. And again, I was talking about at the beginning of last trial, the more I thought about it, I think part of the thought process, you had mentioned, you know, a couple of players as far as from that 1v1 clan here. They're used to playing against that Hillbilly quite a bit. I think they're hoping to be able to bring the juice out this game because we saw last game, the survivors from Eternal were definitely bringing it here. Basically, Torment can only hand over 3 stages, right, Dyer?
Yeah, that's basically the win condition here. 3 stages only, and that is going to be a very, very difficult task if you are facing Bubbazover on the Hillbilly. That is what Eternal considers their ideal roster or their ideal killer, Bubbazover on the Hillbilly, so the expectations are high. I would even say that I would expect a 4K from Bubbazover after I've seen the dominance Eternal has presented us right here. And that was a nice juke by Ivan, though, putting himself in a very difficult spot and then still able to escape. And this is another very, very nice blind here. So Ivan twice in a difficult spot and 2 times really popping out of it.
Yeah, able to get the juice here, able to get to some safety. And at this point, looks like Bubbazover just going to go ahead and check in on these generators that are not corrupted here at this point. With that corrupt intervention here half expired, you do see some scratch marks now heading back towards the shack area here, and you can understand why. That's going to be where your corrupt gens are. You can try and allow the rest of your survivor teammates here to just simply hold M1, hit some skill checks, you know, the easiest part of competitive DBD. But now with the shack, you still have the pallet available, and you know, any pub player, I'm sure, is going to really hurt your heart to see that shack pallet thrown at 5 gens, but that's sometimes just what you need to do. You can only hand over a couple of stages anyways. We're going to be seeing here now at this point, Ivan's going to be taken chased by the truck. You need to try and, in my opinion, get yourself back up to this bottom side of the map, right?
Yeah, this is going to be, you're basically trying to bring the killer where you want them to chase an Ivan. It's the 3rd time he's just jumping from the edge of the chainsaw there. What an amazing run by Ivan here. Reminds me a little bit of Zaka's run in the previous trial. Now the juke once again here doing so much work with this window here as well. Bamboozle is cutting it out, and we are going into this little room here in the main building. This generator has a lot of progress already. Makes me believe that there is a survivor close by. Now we do see this arena. Ivan has kind of rotated back while we are breaking this wall here. I'm not even sure if that was what Bubbazover wanted to hit, or if that was just DBDL kicking him in, and that was a very, very slow one as well. Just a few inches there back on the bamboozle, but Q, this looks strong from Torment.
Yeah, this is a really strong start. This is the type of juice you were hoping to serve here, and now stuck in the corner, not going to be able to avoid it.
Yeah.
Oh, got the down. I thought was maybe going to be able to wrap that corner, potentially get back to the pallet. Not going to be the case, but that is a very long first chase here. We can see our survivors are split up across a couple of gens. They're going to be down to just 1 gen here shortly, unless Bubbazover can push a couple of them off of them pretty quickly.
Now we do have the first stage for Bubbazover for Team Eternal. Win condition would be 3 stages only. So let's see if he can catch the next one. So We are going to see that Bubasava feels confident, doesn't really need the direct camp into the second stage here, is checking the generators a little bit, gives a little bit of space to Torment to potentially pull in the back, which they are not doing. That makes me believe that they are cranking out these generators at the moment. All of them around this, the one in the main building, the one on the left side, the one on this hill here, they have a good amount of progress and they are not looking too bad. So if you are feeling too confident in just a few seconds, a lot of these objectives could be done out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, we know they've got a lot of progress, but you had mentioned you can only hand over 3 stages. Preferably, you would like to be able to get the save before the second stage is progressed, but you can see Bubasava has no reason to really go anywhere at this point. 2 of the gens right now that had a lot of progression, that have that Call of Brian value on them currently, are by this unhook. Now, the unhook is going to come in here. The question is Bubasava going to be able to get this player down quickly? Or if they get down another survivor, all you need to do is camp them to death, because you have gotten 2 stages off of Silhe earlier. So, I mean, right now, Bubasava are in a really good spot.
This is indeed the case. Now we do see that he's trying to work around this pallet over here. In the distance is another generator, and that's going to be the break of this pallet here. We are going around this truck over here, and that's going to be the next difficult one. The question is Koda like Ivan and able to pull himself out of difficult situations? Bamboozle is going to block the window right here. That's going to be the next chainsaw, just breaking this pallet very quick. And it's still on edge, right? Torment is doing such a good job. Koda here with a good chase towards the midsection now as well. Running a little bit into Bubasava, but not able to extend the distance, but it will still be enough to the pallet. I was a little bit worried there for a second. It does go a little bit more difficult and difficult. I'm not sure about this window Q, and that's going to be now the add-on coming in clutch. And that's going to be now hook stage number 3. And if you camp that, then it's going to be a little bit of a even more difficult potential here. And that's going to be back towards the shack. So Q, what do you think? Last generator!
Yeah, I mean, you get the last generator done, but you had mentioned you need the save, and you cannot give out any more stages here. And with this being a basement hook, Bubasava literally just gets the vibe here. Also, let's not forget that we already used the shack pallet earlier here as well, so there's really no resources available for Torment. So even though they were able to serve the juice and only hand over 3 stages, basically off of only 2 downs, I just don't think it's going to be enough.
I do think so as well. And coming into that basement with a killer that has a chainsaw basically requires to do a few 360s around the chainsaw and then leave all together. And usually when you pull something like that, there's always going to be a trade-off. And with the no one escapes death, where they are potentially breaking very soon, that's going to be an even more difficult case here. So we do see them rotating in. They are aware they need to pull this. And I mean, even if it fails, right, then you lose the set point, but the score is basically reset to 0, so you can try it. The chances are just very against the team.
Yeah, I think right here, I think if you're Torment, you at least try and go for it here. Try and see if you can pull off some sort of play as a momentum builder, knowing that you're going into that Ghost Face set, because the Ghost Face set, I think you and I talked about, I think everyone else more than likely felt the same thing, was Eternal going to be trying to prove a point here, going to Larry's on their pick to start the tournament nonetheless here in Winter Circuit, right? Knowing that it's not just about playing against Torment here, but knowing that everyone's going to be looking in at them starting their tournament, and their first option is to go on a pick that's given them some troubles in the past.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's a nice pick from Team Eternal, a nice decision to go for Larry's Memorial Institute with the Ghost Face. I do expect something though, because if you bring your usual weakest killer, then you need to perform really well if you're going into it. So we do see a 30-27 coming out for Eternal there. Set number 1 is decided. We are moving to Larry's, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. Same situation as with YoBoy. I was just talking about how the opening weekend is always bringing chaos and struggle, and here we are, Torment with a -4, because not only have they adjusted their perks, they have added new stuff to their builds, and that is not allowed, but that is actually not allowed for more than 2 years in competitive Dead by Daylight. So this was not a new role catching them off guard. That was just them being a little bit too nervous when going against Zaka on the Ghost Face, and that is very, very understandable. So let's see how it plays out this time. Q, how do you approach a Zaka Ghost Face with -4?
Pray. Honestly, it's gonna be tough here, right? Because you know that Zaka has a lot of experience on this map, and you can only assume that if they're coming in with it here, that Zaka is going to be more than prepped. And we know that these Ghost Face games tend to really only be a difference of a stage or two. So the fact that you're already handing over essentially 2 stages to the team that I think would be more considered the favorite in this set, Torment needs to play the trial of their life here, and the fact that Coda already going to be going up on a hook here, it doesn't look promising.
And that is now going to be the first hook stage already. And yeah, as you mentioned, that doesn't only look possible, that looks quite difficult for Team Torment here, because that is not how you want to kick that off. The previous trials went way better in the early game than this third try on Larry's Memorial Institute, and Zaka already catches the next survivor, and Zynox has half stalk progress already. He is now sneaking up. Danny Johnson looking for a victim here. That's just going to be the call of Brian for now, and I do believe he is trying to cut off this survivor that was previously unhooked, but checking on another generator in the meanwhile. So once again, a nice mix between pressuring survivors and going for the progression of the hook stages.
Yeah, and we are going to see at least the quick reset here, but I think at this point, if you're Zaka, you're going to be feeling pretty comfortable. Now you've been able to find Silhe here pretty quickly, and that's going to be another fresh hook, which is important, right? You want to make sure that you're spreading that pressure as much as possible. You're trying to set the tone as far as the killer side of matchmaking here. We are going to be seeing able to close that distance a little bit. Got caught up in the doorway there by the ace, but that's going to be a swing that changes things. Now 2 injured survivors, and now we're just going to be heading towards the strong exit pallet, but you've already thrown the pallet down itself, which means it's less mind games, and you're almost locked in back here, especially now we got the shroud started.
This is now going to be the work and trying to go for the mind game here. I was just about to say, working around this pallet often works with a crouch mind game. That's not going to be the case right here. Once again, the try by Zaka, but when in doubt, just hold W as a survivor. Beautiful play here by Zarina. She is able to keep Zaka busy, but Eruption kicking in the distance as well on at least one survivor. Another generator is going to regress unless someone is immediately going back onto it. Sloppy Butcher is not doing the most work so far, but we are just in the early game, and I don't think Zaka needs to split injuries just yet, because due to the hook stages coming in so quickly, you are happily just taking your pressure from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that gets lost in translation quite a bit when it just comes to DBD in general, right? Like, yeah, the build that we have with the being able to kick the gens, there's quite a bit of slowdown with that, but being able to get successive downs on successive hooks is really always going to be the best way to truly build up that pressure. But we have been able to see that with this build, once again, we're going to be applying that call of brine into this corner. We're also going to be able to potentially catch a survivor with Eruption. We haven't seen it very often in this opening weekend during our winter circuit, even when we have seen Eruption get put into play by our killers, but we've seen it from time to time, and it could be really critical, especially on a smaller confined map like Larry's.
That is important. Oh, someone just rotating in there, and there was Zynox. That is not the survivor you want to see in front of the Ghost Face right now, because we are now on a 90% stalk progress right there. So that is really, really getting critical now. Good that Zynox caught that and is rotating back. I do assume we won't see Zynox for a little bit longer here. He now definitely is aware that he is 90% stalked and close to an exposed status effect. We do see rotation back onto the generator right here. Zaka still mixing up survivor and hook pressure, and this is a very beautiful position. You can kind of pinpoint that survivor there behind the tile, trying to get a little bit of additional progress in. And look at that, Zaka using this little edge there onto Coda with a 99 progress. This was beautiful, Q.
Yeah, that was beautiful control there. You get yourself the 99. And then in case people are as far as curious, why the swing out of power there? You can just simply go right in front of the Nia. You know that you're going to get revealed. But the other thing that does, knowing that you're going to more than likely have 2 survivors moving in for the save now, that starts the process of the cooldown on that shroud, right? That way, once this play is done, you can use that to your advantage, try and close the distance between one of these survivors. We're more than likely going to see that, now happen at this point, especially because Coda was 99, trying to make their way towards this pallet. Makes their way through it. That's going to be a down, plus the eruption as well. On to Nightfall. That's a huge down, because even though that survivor's around, they're incapacitated. Who's worried about it? You can just pick them up out of that pallet space.
Yeah, and the difficult thing onto all of this, what's just happening, is the fact that they are with 2 generators completed on 0 points, Q. That's the issue. The game basically just starts now when you already have 1 survivor eliminated. So this is the very, very difficult one now, and Zaka doesn't seem like there's going to be any potential for the survivor team, because he's just going to look for the next one. So I do believe that Coda might, I was about to say, find himself in a difficult spot if he's not going to be saved. But the generator pressure is, besides this generator, definitely dropping towards 0.
Yeah, not just that, but now that location was confirmed as far as where your survivor was. This is going to be a god pallet that does need to be broken, so you are going to be at least able to know where this survivor is here currently. Now, the other thing is, you will notice that shroud came back very, very quickly. That was thanks to that green add-on there. That helps them out with that, but you can see 4th gen almost going to be complete, and the question then becomes, if they have a 5th gen near completion, that would be big. Try and get some stages out the door, because we know generally, if there is ever going to be a run back on Larry's, you and I have seen it plenty, Dyer, it's normally right around this mark, the 4 gens, but you can't let that be the case, because you also gave up 4 points if you're Torment.
And Nightfall going down here is not the space you need, right? For the recovery, you need to find a good moment where you get a little bit of time for the survivor team to re-pressure on the generators, to go for these resets that are needed, to go get like a little bit of the head free when it comes to this match. And Zaka constantly hooking these survivor does take exactly this chance from them, and unfortunately the chases are not long enough. Talking a little bit cheeky here.
I love it.
Talking, me too. Especially when a killer is doing so good, they deserve a little bit of this. But just talking about it, right? Zynox needs to be very careful here when we are talking about the short chases. Zynox is going to be in a very difficult spot here, and Zaka hasn't caught him for quite a while. Zynox is doing a wonderful job in staying hidden, but it's not going to happen forever. So the next chase, if that is again an insta-down due to the stalk progress here, then it's going to become even worse for Torment.
Yeah, especially because that's the survivor that is currently worth the most points to Zaka, right? Zynox has not been hooked yet in this trial. If there was any survivor that you would hope to be able to make some sort of hatch play potentially at the end, Zynox currently is the one. The good news is you were able to find the reset point for Nightfall and Coda, thanks to that sloppy butcher and the way that things work with it now. Basically, you interrupt the heal, they're all the way back to the 0 point, so you have a little bit more time now to try and find Zynox. But you can see Zynox trying to stay away from the gen, understands just how valuable they are. The problem, though, Zaka currently shrouded up. You have no idea where he's at.
Yeah, Zynox is doing an absolute fantastic job. No idea where he's at. Applies to the Ghost Face, and Zaka doing a lot of mind games with that, but it also applies to Zynox, who can nowhere be found. Coda is going down. He was just busy with the teammate Ace. They're trying to reset, and Zaka doesn't even allow that, even interrupting these small mistakes that are really, really needed. That tells you what pressure and dominance Eternal has here. Now we are down on 2 survivors queue. The generator spread is not the best for Zaka here. It is quite good for the survivor team getting rid of it, but it's still good enough with 2v1, I believe, to finish this with a 4K at 1 generator. At least the chances are very, very high.
Yeah, and there's Zynox as you're talking about it. That was who you wanted to find here. Able to get the full stock. And of course, now the question becomes, what do you do if you're Ace, right? Because of the changes that happened to Ghost Face now at this point, as a couple months ago, Zynox doesn't have the ability to get the reveal. However, with the swing there, very well done to be able to get the down. Zynox, the most important survivor in the game currently, is going to go down here, but it looks like Zaka might leave the slug, wants to go for it all here.
Yeah, and that's a very understandable one, right? Especially when we keep in mind that Eternal and Ghostface were never the best friends, especially on Larry's. Then you do want the 4K. And also we have the -4 penalty. If you finish this with a 4K, that would basically be a 4K on 3 generators remaining instead of 1 generator remaining. So the win condition ignores a 3-gen. It even ignores a 4-gen. So there's no better position to be in for an upcoming match. And we have to mention, we have changed the bleed out rule. So if Zynox would bleed out here, that would be all points awarded to Zaka, just -1 as a penalty that Zynox was not dead hook yet. But the pressure on the killer for having a bleed out is way less in this new tournament here, in the new rule set. So Zaka doesn't need to worry too much about the slug here. In worst case, you give up 1 point.
Yeah, I gotta say, I do like that, right? Because I feel like, especially in some of these games where it's close, we've seen where bleedouts do end up playing a big factor. I think a 1 point, even I think if we were to go give a 2nd point penalty, wouldn't be the worst of things in the world, but it definitely feels a lot more rewarding to the killer who's at least still been able to do essentially what your job is, right? Now, at this point, though, Zaka, you can see trying to find their ways, trying to see if they can find Nightfall here, who's just chilling out by a pallet. That bleed out timer here now on Zynox almost reached that 50%, so we're getting close to 2 minutes left still on that timer itself, and we at least get to see across the way, based off of the spectator view, that Zynox is nowhere close to Nightfall.
Zaka checking the lockers now. I remember a game where Zaka was checking the lockers in the end game and just randomly grabbed the survivor first try out of a locker. Unfortunately, this is not going. Oh! I'm just talking about it. It's going to happen. I'm so sorry, Torment, for jinxing this. I was just talking about it. Cast this curse as its absolute best. I'm so sorry, Torment, for 4K'ing this cube. Please take over.
That's crazy, man, because you would almost think that the script had been written literally perfectly said, but now you have to find Zynox. Does look like Zynox is going to be in the library, going to be making their way towards the basement here. I don't think there's going to be enough time. Does look like Zaka has been able to find them there. And chat, I'm not sure what resolution y'all are watching this in, but that does indeed look like a 4K to me, with only 1 gen left standing, or left to be done. But as Dyer had said before, thanks to the 4 points worth of penalties, it's almost like 3 gens were left standing, which means for Eternal, they have to come in here on the survivor side and just simply complete 3 gens.
Yeah, simply complete 3 gens. And usually, Q, I would say, simply going for 3 generators is easier said than done. But if you are Eternal and if you are coming with this wonderful performance from Billy set into Ghostface set, then I do think it is a perfect position and they're gonna pull it. We will see if that's going to happen. 4th trial in a few minutes.
All right, let's go ahead and take ourselves another trip on back into the fog. Trial number 4 here of our 2nd matchup of the day. We're going to be seeing Yvonne out on the Ghost Face. We're going to be seeing Zaka, Bovazaver, Kaz, and Dan out on the survivors here. And well, all they really need to do is complete themselves 3 generators. 28 8-4, thanks to those -2 penalties that we saw Torment take heading into trial number 3 here. So as far as on the side of Ghost Face, what do you think, Dyer? Do you switch up away from the meta that seems to have become evident on Ghost Face, try and spice things up, or do you just give it your best go?
I think we need something very, very crazy. Perkless survivors. If it comes to proving a point, then yeah, I believe Eternal is pulling it to the. But I think the killer is also having fun. Q, if I'm looking on that unrelenting, enduring whispers. I mean, I'm glad to see that the players have fun.
That actually value off the bat. No way.
There's no way that trolling Ivan is going to end in a punishment for Cass. That's going to be a clip for the archives, Q.
You get the enduring plus the unrelenting value there to start things off, and that is going to be a very first down. That definitely needs to be a clip for not only just Twitter, but for the shorts as well, trying to see if maybe we thought somebody hopped into that locker. Isn't the case, but you will see our survivors here for Eternal. They've already started to crank into those generators. One of them about ready to pop. The second one, which would essentially be the tie condition, already at 50%. So even though Yvonne got themselves a nice early down, they just need a lot more than that.
Now we just see that Cass is receiving the full punishment of what he did here, and going to face himself with a camp. And Ivan also hears the survivor approaching. Dan running in, that's a little bit too loud, so Ivan is aware. Eternal with the first generator here. They want to support their teammate though. Bubazavra is now moving in additionally, and it's going to be the patience game between Ivan and the survivors. Eternal is trying to set up the double save, and that's going to be enough. But yeah, as you mentioned, Cass is going to go into the second stage, but we do see the second generator coming out already. So just one more, and we would have done what we need to achieve here.
Yeah, I mean, so you're going to go ahead and continue this chase here. Obviously, playing around in a very unsafe pallet gets done stupid. Plus 10 wood added to the face here by Kaz. Another plus 10 wood, of course, the enduring makes it a little bit easier to recover from that and get right back into chase here. That's going to be a swing. That's going to be a down with a little bit of the nodders here. And that's going to be our first elimination here as well. The question now becomes where and when do we see this third generator complete, because Eternal has earned themselves the benefit of that being all they need here.
Now going for a quick reset while Cass is already eliminated after the accident that happened on the pallet there. Bubazavra is still the injured one, but I do believe they are going for him as well. Dan is going to go into the next chase here. Dan the man, how they're calling him on Team Eternal, and he's usually a very strong runner with the little crouch there, just memeing a little bit, but is actually able to keep the Ghost Face on distance. Dan is now going to see a target switch onto Zaka here, so they seem to pick this generator, and that's going to be the next injury. Eternal seems to be very confident here. I do believe they have all reason to do so, but a game can easily slip out of your hands.
Yeah, it's definitely something you don't want to get too crazy with the memes here, but we saw even went for the fake pallet break. Now going to be coming back towards Zaka here. Zaka does have a pallet that they can deal with, and instead just going to be able to...
Please don't block him for longer than 10 seconds.
Yeah, this would be really bad if we were to be able to see that here, but he's going to be just, I guess, memeing in this case, but it would technically still be a block. You can see unblocking here. That's going to be big. But not only that, but now you've got yourself an Adam here who is close. The third generator did pop over across the way, though, so that is all you need here at this point. But I think this is kind of where you get to see our players get to have just a little bit of fun.
I'm so glad he unblocked the survivor there, Q. There would have been a restart, a massive penalty, and another black card for Torment. So this is where the referees are getting a little bit of sweat on the forehead. But yeah, our players have a little bit of fun. It's decided at this point, so it's nice to see them enjoying to be in the event here. Eternal is going to move forward into the second round. They are going to play against YoBoy, which I believe is going to be a very spicy game. And we do have Astray facing Torment then, and this is the patience game test here. Just a little bit back and forth, and Ethan is actually going to stay the winner over Dan here. That was as funny as it looked, quite well done.
Yeah, very well done here. But the only problem, I think you also have Bubba's here. You could get yourself a 2-for-1. Even playing the same sort of game. The last player still left is going to go ahead and finish as far as working on the generator itself. And that's going to be down 2 players down here for Eternal. As far as you see, Iman hitting the nodders here as well, having a little bit of fun. You had mentioned, you know, it's good to see our players having a little bit of you know, at this point, since the results are over, having a little bit of fun with it. I think that's something that great way to wind down our long weekend, but our first weekend here of Winter Circuit.
Yeah, the first weekend of Winter Circuit coming to an end with this decision that Eternal is taking the win. We have seen Sequence being successful over their opponent. We have seen Team Singularity being successful, YoBoy and Eternal. So we have Sequence, Singularity, YoBoy, Eternal. That's going to be the matchup for the second week. Furthermore, we are going to see Divine Dead fighting Desolate, and we are going to have Astray versus Torment. So interesting games ahead of us, and Zaka is the one that is still playing serious here, it seems like.
Well, maybe
and
not
is actually moving towards the exit gate. Hey, he's at least moving towards the exit gate. You give him that, but potentially wants to finish this off with one last stun. Ivan is just staying in the crouch mode, playing a little bit of mind games here, but that's not going to work. On to Zaka here. Just revealing him now as well makes things a little bit easier. And Ivan and Zaka also knowing each other very well, practicing a lot of times together, both very experienced and long-time competitive players, while we watch the flick Ghost Face trying to catch Zaka here. Q, you were on the desk for the entire weekend. What's your impression so far in the Winter Circuit? What can we expect for the upcoming week here?
Yeah, you know, I think we saw a couple of teams getting put to really able to put their best foot forward for the weekend. I think what we're going to see now is kind of that gap closes a little bit more, and I'm going to be interested to see. You had mentioned the teams that we're going to be seeing as far as in the upper bracket. YoBoy, Eternal over here, and then Singularity and Sequence over on the other side. I'm going to be looking for a few things. One, a mix up in killers, because we've seen a couple of teams kind of enjoy a few different options. But also, I'm going to be looking for probably more. I think we only had one series go the distance, need a third set. So I'm going to be expecting more of that next weekend, honestly.
Yeah, right. And I think we can tell that like we feel the spirit of a top 8 tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the opening weekend was very different what we have experienced in the past, and a few people would potentially say, yeah, of course, that's logical. If you have only top 8 instead of top 16, logically you have more serious games and closer games and stuff. But I think it was still different because since we invited the teams, I mean, a lot of these slots were given exclusively to teams that have proven themselves in the past, and there was quite of a hype coming from the teams. And the qualifiers we have hosted offline, which you can find on our YouTube channel during the next week, there was also the spirit of knowing, okay, this is really a tournament that cuts it down to 8-team maximum, and I think this is what we saw in the trials and how the games were played. So I think it wasn't just half of an event because we have taken less teams. I think it is the Winter Circuit stands for a spirit of the best teams fighting against each other. And if we look a little bit further, there's Season 8 coming up as the next event after the Winter Circuit. So we also start figuring out who comes in clutch to take one of these very, very wanted spots in a DBDLeague season. So it was a great opening weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Just making a little review here while we see Bobazavra actually bleeding out successfully here. Just a little recap. I believe we had an amazing opening weekend. If I may say that as the league commissioner, first of all, I would like to thank everyone.